Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 69.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to bringing you useful information about custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to take your game to new heights. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Okay. Usually I don't go back and listen to each episode right after I produce it, but not this time. I had my first annual Christmas podcast with Mike McFadden, a 30-year PGA teaching professional from Germany who I first met about 6 years ago at the AGCP Roundtable 6. He's a very good friend, and I've learned a huge amount about golf improvement and how to practice effectively from Mike. Today you'll be entertained by all of the things that he says, but listen carefully because there's many nuggets here. I found a lot of them when I went back and listened to this interview about how to set up your golf practice to be the most effective it can be. So ahead of this episode, think about why do you practice and what are you doing in your practice to be most effective to help you play your best. Enjoy this interview with Mike McFadden. Hello, this is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast and another one of the returning visitors, but this one's as much fun as it gets, and he and I have agreed we're going to do one every Christmas time. So Mike McFadden is with me today, a 30-plus year PGA teaching professional. You don't have to say how many plus. Custom club fitter and also sports director at the Jakobsberg Hotel, I think that's pronouncing right, in Golf Resort in Jakobsberg, Germany. Mike, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're going to talk about today. I got a little sense of it, but I know you continue to work hard at finding ways to help people implement the things that you're trying to get them to do. I guess that's one way to say it. I like the word implement a lot. So we're going to talk about effective practice techniques. Boy, I talked a lot there. Hi, Mike.
No problem. Hi, Tony. Glad to be here again.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good. Well, today, start out a little bit, put a little perspective on things. What, in your mind, is the game of golf and what it's really all about? And that sort of sets the stage for our discussion today.
Actually, Tony, it's simpler than most people think. Golf is nothing but skill acquisition and problem solving. When you're out on the golf course, you're continually confronted with situations, problems that you have to find a solution to. And you can only solve them with skills that you have in your skill set. And if you're going to develop these skills, get better at these skills, the first thing you're going to need to do is improve your practice techniques. To understand this, you first need to understand what is a skill. A skill is a movement with a purpose, and it can be learned. Ability, on the other hand, is something more like inherited. It's nature. I'd love to be able to fly through the air and dunk a basketball like Gordon Hayward, but my ability, my natural-born ability, I could probably learn to jump higher, but I think no matter what I did, I'd never be able to touch the rim. So there's a mathematical formula for this. Skills are ability plus technique. Technique is the way of performing the skill, and that you can improve. You can learn that, okay? And for golf, there's really three skills that are necessary to learn. The first is cognitive, which means for golf, that's mental skills like problem solving and reading the situation that you're confronted with. The second skill is perceptive, and this skill in golf is interpreting and making use of incoming information, boils down to which shot are you going to play. You're planning the solution. And the one that gets the most attention, of course, is the motor skill. In golf, that's really just smoothly and efficiently and repeatedly executing an efficient golf swing. The skilled golf swing gets the most attention in the world of practicing golf, much to the neglect of the cognitive and perceptive tile or part of reading and planning. You definitely need to try to involve the reading and planning in all practice activities. And this needs to change if you're looking for better and more effective practice habits. When you're going to do this, it all starts with focus of attention. Once you understand this, you can organize the how and what part much easier. A constraint-led approach has proven to be the most effective form. You're going to need to set the challenge point by dialing in the desired degree of difficulty. And as your skills develop, the first thing that most people don't want to accept is errors are good. Errors are good. You can make mistakes. And then the tasks need to evolve as you get more and more involved in golf to be more game-like, more like playing the game itself.
Well, whoa, we got a lot to cover, don't we? Well, I'm going to step back a second, though. If more golfers would just there were two words that you said that I think if everyone would adopt, and that was problem solving, right? If they would perceive what they're doing as problem solving more when they're on the range, when they're on the course, and realize that's like a lot of what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and interesting enough, most people spend most of their day doing that, so they're actually used to it, but they just don't associate with problem solving with playing golf and learning golf.
But in a fun way, right? I mean, it's like doing a puzzle, right? I mean, my kids always used to love to do puzzles, and puzzles were fun, and so when you view it that way, okay, this is something I got to figure out. Yeah. If
the task is designed correctly and matches the skill level of the person doing it, it's always going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, like I said a few minutes ago, you set a lot of bars for what we're going to cover. But let's talk about, you said focus. Can you talk about a little bit, what are the different kinds of focuses that golfers, well, let's say should have, and when should they use different ones?
Okay. The first imperative, the first thing you have to understand is that learning happens when attention is focused. If you're looking out the window and daydreaming, you're not learning. Okay? So you have to focus your attention. You have to decide in advance where to send your thoughts. To do this, it helps to know the different types of focus. And the three primary are an internal focus, an external task focus, and an external result focus. If we turn that into golf and we look at, say, beginners, the way I teach for beginners, people just starting in the game, internal body focus has the most success. You remove interface. There's sometimes no target, no ball, and even sometimes no club. The practice can be blocked. The shots can be specific, putting, chipping, pitching, and they're looking to see where am I doing, how am I standing, where am I going, and this works really well for basic fundamentals. When it's done correctly, though, and that's a big problem in the industry, it's only a short phase. You only need a short period of time to get a feeling for the basic golf swing, and then you need to move on. The beginner who's got a basic feel, and they can get that in 3-4 weeks, they should move on to an intermediate phase of focus, and that would be external task focus. And the practice there should be random and situation specific. Here you could do, for example, for golf, concentrate and focus on impact alignments. Okay? Yeah. And the intermediate golfer, as he moves on, can go to an advanced focus, which would be external result focus. The advanced player will always be going back and forth between task focus and result focus, but they have the best results. They'll seldom ever return to internal body focus like beginners. And this practice, this result focus, should be variable and like the game of golf. And here the focus could be on ball flight. You need to do things like keep score, measure your results, play games. You should only get one chance. You should only get one chance at solving the problem. You can add pressure through adding emotion and consequences. Basically, when it comes to focus, you have to ask yourself, should I practice the golf swing, impact alignments, or scoring? Now, impact alignments are way more important than how you swing to get them. Yeah. And the game itself is all about the lowest score wins. So when you're deciding on what type of focus, it makes more than sense to keep your focus external and either task or result oriented.
And now, there's a huge number, and if you talk at the high level of golfers that almost try to keep going back to the first stage, don't they? What you kind of called the first stage, right? Okay, I got something wrong with my golf swing or whatever, and they, and that's not fair to say that it's at the high level. It's at my level too, right? We're always looking for some little thing to grasp, and you know what I mean?
It's a dogma in the industry. The entire industry is focused on if I don't score well, I must have lost my swing.
Yeah. Well, so you talked a little bit about focus and your brain and setting up training and practice. And I'm sure, well, you probably don't see this because you probably beat up people when you see them on the range doing nothing, but, just kind of beating balls and stuff. Like some of the how-tos of setting up training sessions correctly. And early on, you talked about constraint-led training. A little more maybe on what you mean by that.
I would say, Tony, that remember that saying I gave you about what the task leads to the solution?
You mean the one I got
RT6.
The one I got on my business card that I made up that says the task leads to the solution. Learning is the repeated attempt to solve a task, not the repetition of the solution for a specific task. Oh, you mean that one?
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. That's perfect. And now we got, Tony, a low-fat version of that one. Its practice is repetition without repetition.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, you can't learn, you will not get better without ball contact. That's the first repetition. And the second repetition is this searching for solution. You're not doing the same thing over and over. You're searching, you're looking, you're out on discovery. The best way to learn movement management is self-discovery. And in teaching, it's not about being told what to do. That's prescriptive teaching, and it's not very effective. What the coach and even the learner needs to learn is to use guided discovery. And basically, it's kind of funny, but you have to come to grips with the fact that the parts of the body that execute the golf swing, they don't speak English. They don't speak German, for that matter. They don't speak any language. They speak the language of doing something.
Accomplishing something, not am I in this position and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, again, it's back to solving a problem.
Yeah.
I have a problem. My ball lies here. It needs to go there. What information do I need? That's the first step of focus. Make me a plan and figure out how I'm going to do it based on my skill set, and then execute it. And when I'm done, repeat. Just do it again and keep doing it until I get to the 18th hole. So when we ask what kind of constraints there are individual constraints, task constraints, and environment constraints. Individual are more with the physical, mental, and emotional side, and the environment is more like nature, weather, changing the playing field or surface or whatever. In golf, where you really get to work is with the task constraint, because the tasks you can adjust the rules, the tools, the playing field, the goals, the time you have. And for mechanics or technique, task-oriented goals like hitting something or avoiding something that will change your impact alignments, they work wonderfully. And they have nothing to do with how am I moving my body? What should I do? Which swing do I do today? One of the main areas you need to keep in mind with task constraints is just stay away from stability. Not doing the same thing. Variation mimics the way the game is played. And it also requires you, and that's a bonus, it also requires you to hone those first two focus skills of reading and planning. The more you hone that reading and planning skill, the better it is out on the golf course, because you're going to have to do it on every shot. And if you were to summarize it, a constraint-led approach to coaching takes a particular technique, it could be in the swing, or a skill, you need to hit a low shot, or a tactic from the whole game itself, and then isolates it into a small game. And the coach sets the rules, but lets the players find the answer to solve the problem. He sets them off on a journey to discover for themselves how to hit it low, how to hit it out of divot, and makes rules on getting them to isolate and steering them towards solutions that will work.
Now, for example, do you recommend a lot of times people just almost play a game of golf when they're out on the practice tee and say, okay, I want to do this. I want to hit a draw. The ball's there. Pretend that they have to hit a cut shot, hit the next one that way. I mean, I know I don't practice that way, but
you don't practice that way, Tony. Wake up! Come on.
I know. Well, I don't practice very much.
Here, I tell you, one of the reasons
that's another story, Mike.
Yeah, but it's the same reason why most people don't, because practicing like that is harder and less successful, and people practice to look good in practice instead of play good on the golf course.
Yeah, yeah. So you not that you want to feel bad with yourself, but find a way to make that feel a little bit more fun for you. Realize that the benefits far outweigh a little bit of uncomfortableness on the practice tee, right?
Well, you just had a nice podcast on mindset and a growth mindset,
right.
And that's basically all it's about. You can judge anything that happens any way you want. Ball flies this way, you can say good or bad, or you can say, oh, it just flew that way. What did I do to make it fly that way?
Yeah, I just the last couple of days, because I've been changing my putter. Okay, you've been following this stuff about Cure putters, and so I have one, and I fit myself for it. And I did something I haven't done in a long time, which is to just go out and practice on the putting green for an hour, a couple of times, right? And I have attempted very much to almost get the focus not to be on putting the ball in the hole, but making a good stroke, right? And seeing where the ball went and understanding what had happened when it went a certain way. Relates to what you're talking about a little bit, right?
Yeah, that would be an external task focus of what's it feel like to hit it in the middle. I would recommend trying what's it feel like to hit it on the toe, what's it feel like to hit it on the heel, what's it feel like to hit with the back of the club.
Oh, yeah.
But always going back towards what's it feel like to hit on the middle, what you actually want, and how does the ball roll.
Yeah. Well, a little bit back to task constraints and task-led learning. Some more examples, perhaps, about task constraint solutions and other things that you do when you're working with some of your students.
Well, actually, Tony, that stuff before, that's all theory. The fun starts now. This is where the fun starts. And first and foremost, you always have to work backwards. You have to decide on what's the learning objective, and then design the learning activity. Let's say, for instance, it's impact alignments, okay? For example, hey, you know this one, everybody knows this one, the dreaded over the top, the hands move forward, not downward at the start of the downswing. So a simple task would be, don't tell the person what to do with their hands, just put something on the ground that's soft and big, probably colorful would work too, and they try to miss it. You put it in the right spot.
Yeah, or soft,
you put it down the target
sure, right?
line.
Yeah.
Yes, don't put a metal bucket that's hooked up to electricity. I usually tell people that, though. The plastic bucket or the piece of foam it's electric, so if you touch it, it's going to give you a shock. But the idea is they see something in the way, and they find a movement pattern, a solution that doesn't hit it. And they usually find it pretty quick. Sometimes they'll cheat and swing on the inside. They'll still do their over-the-top move and go inside it, and I'll put another one in a specific spot. And now they got a little tunnel to go through, and they can't cheat. And it doesn't take any time at all. If you film them, their hands from the top are no longer moving forward. They're moving downward, because the only way to solve this problem is move downward. But you don't tell them to move downward. You give them a task that leads to a body movement pattern that fills the solution, fills the task with not hitting whatever it is you put there. I usually use foam, because foam, everybody knows it doesn't hurt, so they swing faster and less controlled.
Yeah.
Another example here, this is one of my favorites. Another example would be working on low point. Where's the low point in the swing arc? Impact alignments again. I'll paint a line on the ground with that ground screw stuff, yellow or white or red paint. I'll paint a line, and I'll tell the student, I'm going to get a cappuccino. Call me when the line's gone. Yeah, by themselves, they discover a movement pattern that the low point in the swing arc hits the line. They might dig holes, and I've got some good pictures of holes all around the line, but with time and then maybe with some help, this is guided discovery. I'll give them some other tasks that will help them to adjust the low point to where it needs to be. I got another one here, Tony. Because this is the good part. I got another one that you love, how to hit the low spinny wedge.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? What task do you do to learn? Everyone wants to learn to do that. Well, one of the first things I do is I'll take like a little hurdle, maybe about 6 feet wide, set it up in front of someone, give them the highest lofted club in their bag, and say, hit it under it.
Yeah.
They'll go, huh? Yeah, hit it under it. All I want you to do is hit the ball under that barrier that's going horizontally across in front of you. Oh, okay. And then as they maybe get better at that, I could advance it and bring a target in. Then maybe I could bring a zone in. Then I could add different zones. I could raise and lower the bar. I could move them closer or farther away. And the whole time, they have to get it to where the handle of the club's in front of the head of the club at impact. And they get a feeling for first probably sticking it in the ground. They know they got to move downward then, but they realize, oh, that's sticking in the ground. They'll flatten it out, but keep the hands in front. I've seen in a short period of time, just by telling people to do that, completely change in their mechanical structure for a short, flat wedge. And if they're actually having trouble in the mechanics, we can go back a step, and I love using the tour stick. Unfortunately, everybody calls it an alignment rod. I hate that, alignment rod. One of the worst things you can do with an alignment rod is lay it on the ground in front of you and leave it there for a bucket of balls. But what's really good about a tour stick is it's flexible. And so what I'll have them do is take the tour stick in their hand as long as it can get, set it on the ground outside their right foot, and put some pressure on it. This pressure is helpful, and now their right wrist is cocked back. So just turn and swing forward and feel when your right wrist extends. It can't extend early because the stick's too long and the ground's in the way.
Yeah.
That's constraints.
Yeah.
And they get a feeling for when the wrist extends. The club is behind the handle leading it. And then we'll go back to the obstacle in front of them and try to hit it under and see if they can get that feeling with a normal club.
I know you don't look a lot on Facebook, but there's Michael Hebron, who I'm sure you probably even correspond with once in a while.
I've seen him a couple of times at seminars, the teaching and coaching conferences.
He's, probably if you were ever to do one Facebook thing, to tell you the truth, it would be to follow his stuff, because he's got about 5 or 6 posts almost every day, something related to different tasks and things like this. And one of the ones is, hitting over a bar, hitting under a bar, with wedge shots, and just trying to learn for yourself how to hit different shots, right?
Yeah, we do a little circuit training on the pitching green with 6 shots, and we set the bar up, and each person, depending on their skill set, is closer or farther away from the bar, and the bar's higher or lower. And you go, one time you have to go over it, the next station you got to go under it, the next station you get free to do whatever you want, and you do 2 times 6 different stations. And you make score, you make points. You get points for getting over it and on the green, how many putts or how close it is to the hole. Depending on the skill level of the person doing it, there's a different scoring system, but that one's really good. I got some on-course ones. One of my favorite ones is bunkers in regulation. You know that one?
Oh, what? How many bunkers can you get into?
After you've practiced bunkers, and now you want to test it, you want to see how good they can do with bunkers when it counts, you play 9 holes, and I specify which green bunker the ball has to go in. If you get it there in regulation, and with a bogey golfer 1 over regulation, that's okay. You get a point. Okay, I just had somebody, a young lady, she hit her second shot on her first hole 2 feet to the flag for eagle, and she had to put it into the bunker because we were playing bunkers in regulation. Because the rule is you have to go through the bunker. So, and then you get a point if you get it out of the bunker and on the green, and then there's scoring for how close and how many shots you need. So you go play 9 holes, and you're looking to hit, and hitting it in the bunker in regulation is often more difficult than hitting the green in regulation. Often the bunker, I choose a little pot bunker next to a par 3. You got to hit it. So you're really focused on the tee shot, but it's very accurate too. That's a side effect of a task like that. But then you can make a game out of bunker practice.
Yeah, what a fabulous
I could
game.
I could go on and on, Tony. Hey, you know what? I just thought of something. We could make our Christmas annual thing kind of like a new task. You can give me all the different areas, and I'll come up with tasks for that area. Instead of talking theory, we'll talk practice, because that's what I do every day.
Yeah. Well, you said earlier too, one of the things that I really like talking about, making errors. I had always been. There's a lot of great John Wooden stuff, but one of the things that he always said that people felt was counterintuitive is the team that makes the most mistakes wins, right? And people kind of scratch their head at that. But that's the truth. You'll never get good unless you figure out how to make mistakes and understand what happens. And we're always making mistakes when we're on the golf course, right? So talk a little bit more about your perspective about that kind of a statement. Errors are good in practice.
Basically, the only way to not make mistakes is don't do anything. Do nothing. And that's why John Wooden says you have to make mistakes, because it means you're taking action. Something happened, you reacted, or you made a decision, and through those so-called mistakes, they're just experiences. You adjust and try another solution. One of my favorite examples, I think it was, who invented the light bulb? Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the story where he did 1,009 experiments before he got it right. And they said to him, how could you possibly do that? I mean, wouldn't you want to give up after 100 mistakes or 500 mistakes? It took you 1,009 times. And he said, no. I learned very good 1,008 times how to not invent the light bulb, and it led me to what I needed to know in order to do it. So if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. You're doing nothing. You have to understand that errors in practice are good. They encourage, searching. They trigger processes that promote learning and remembering. What we need to do is we need to learn in the golf industry. We need to embrace and use unwanted outcomes to teach and learn. The solution will show itself through the struggle. This type of learning sticks with you. It stays by you, and it helps the golfer to self-organize their own personal solutions to the task. When we were discussing earlier about going above and below the bar, some people might move the ball back a little. Some people might use less or more wrist set. Some people might swing a little steeper. Each person has their own solution for getting under the bar. If they can do it and repeat it repetitively and then learn to control the distance and the direction, then that's a good solution for them for that task. Yeah. And when I look at my own self playing golf, I told you I was trying to get 100 times this year. I only got around 90. I'll maybe get a few more rounds in. Well, when I'm playing golf, for me, a realistic goal for 10 shots would be something like 2 times good, 2 times bad, and 6 times acceptable. That would be, for me, a good quota. I would like that. I'd probably score okay, too, with that, depending on how bad the bad ones are, but bad shots. So, and this sort of scale is unacceptable for practice. Practice should be harder and more difficult than play. It can still be fun, especially when you set it up in games, but it should be harder and more difficult than play. In practice, when setting individual challenge points for each separate task, I like starting with a scorecard that looks more like this. You got 7 out of 10 shot success rate. That's too easy. Got to make it more difficult. 3 out of 10 shot success rate, no, that's too hard. That's got to make it easier in some way, shape, or form. And if I get around 5 out of 10 that are successful, that's good. And I'll always be watching. I'll always be looking when I need to turn the dial up or turn the dial down. When I start with a new student and they get a task and they're starting doing it good, they're looking at me smiling, I say, hey, don't smile too much. I can always make it harder. And the art of coaching like this is actually the ability to dial in the degree of difficulty to match the skill level for the given task. And you could be a good golfer but still bad in one task, and you might have to start a lot lower with that task as far as degree of difficulty as maybe a different one which you're much better at. And I need to know what constraint I need to adjust, whether it's the rules, the tools, the playing field, all that stuff, so that you are at that challenge point where, yeah, you can do it, but it's not too easy and it's not too hard.
And something's happening in terms of learning, right?
Yeah, you're learning. Things are happening. You have to ask yourself, you want to look good in practice or you want to play better? And remember, and that's when it's with these errors, golf's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the wind and rain.
I did that in Ireland about 3 or 4 years ago in the sideways rain. That was one of the most fun rounds of golf I ever had, because it was just fun.
If you know you're going to do it, usually you'll just let go, succumb to the circumstances and get the best out of it. And of course, you learn something. You probably learn you should avoid playing in conditions like that besides other things, but you learn something.
Well, do you think that the whole environment of focusing on the kind of things that you're talking about here is changing in the world? Do you see a lot of positive moves that way compared to? I'd call it golf is catching up. Yeah.
In other sports, I mean, whether it's volleyball, basketball, in other sports, they're way ahead. But golf is definitely catching up. There's more and more golf professionals in the world now that are way more educated in modern brain science and motor function learning. Yeah, it's definitely moving in the right direction. Not fast enough, but it's moving.
But it's exciting to see that or perceive. I mean, that was my perception too. But I think it's neat, and it'll be fun if we ever get to the point where you look out in the range and see people, it's just some place where they're doing the things that you talk about. There very few are. Well, you know what? Like you said, we're going to be 30, 31 minutes or something like that, but we don't have to be. So, let's end a little bit. Two final questions. Any things that you wanted to say that you didn't, in going back, because we did move fast. But, turning this all into lower scores, give us a little bit of final thoughts on that.
Well, the key here is your practice has to be specific and game-like. You have to practice in an environment that closely resembles the one in which you're going to perform. Like we said earlier, playing the game teaches the game itself. I mean, if you look back at England, a large number of courses never even had a driving range. You learn to play on the golf course. So if you're going to set your practice up like that, what's the real-world simulation look like? Well, not 50 balls from the same lie with the same club and an alignment rod on the ground. You need a big area. You need to rotate. You need to change clubs. You need to change targets. You should only give yourself one chance with each task. And I'll give you here's a real winner. Walk. When you're practicing, walk. We do a drill, it's called touch the ball machine, between every shot.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about it, you hit golf balls for about 4.5 minutes and walk for 4 hours. So the simplest form would be play the game of golf, 9 holes of your home golf course on the driving range, but you walk between each shot, and you do your full routine. You do your post-shot routine, and then when you hit that driver on the first hole, you decide, okay, my next shot would be about an 8-iron, so then you walk away. And you need to go walk about 30 yards, then you walk back and go through that reading and planning and executing phase once again, and then, okay, you skip putting unless you can putt there, but you play those 9 holes exactly as if you were playing, and use this walk into the shot and read the situation, plan the situation, execute the situation, and then close it out.
And think about what you learned from it. Of course, people on the golf course aren't thinking so much about what they learned from the shots, too. Maybe they should, but the practice tee is for sure the time to be thinking about what you learned from it, right?
Yeah, most of the time on the golf course, they don't even watch the ball till it stops.
Yeah.
They move out of the finish and don't watch the ball till it stops. You just stop learning as soon as you did that. Another thing I'd recommend that we do in almost every aspect of the game is keep score. When I divide it into small games, we got all kinds. We'll play tic-tac-toe on the putting green. They love it, and I can make it as hard or as easy. I can make it for beginners and +1 handicaps. I play tic-tac-toe on the putting green. You're working on reading greens, you're working on direction, and you're working on distance. One of my favorites is basketball. You know the game 21?
Yeah.
We'll play that one on the putting green, too, where you have, I think it's 5 different sizes, and the littlest one for lots of points, 5 points, is real small. We have 5 different, little goals. They look like croquet targets there, and you play against each other from both sides, and you can do it uphill, downhill, side hill, and you get points, and you got to land on 21, just like the basketball game, exactly. And that's where you get that aspect you said earlier, fun. It's fun, and they want to win, and you've got to take a good look at the putt. It's got to go through the third one, because that's the exact points you want. How much does it break? What speed do I use? And they're having fun doing it.
Neat stuff. Well, I'm going to give you one more bonus question too that we didn't even think about, but the videos. Talk a little bit about what you're doing, because you spent a lot of time in the last year. Is that okay?
It's okay. It's good. I got a new hobby. I'm making videos. I just met with my website designer again 2 days ago. We're meeting on Monday. We designed a logo, and I'm going to be opening up a website in English. I'm going to do it in English. There'll be one little part in German for my custom fitting clients. We're going to be doing here. We just had some stuff on constraint-led learning. I got one of my golf professionals. He's going to do one of the little things. Is going to be me and my golf buddies, and we're going to a couple of golf professionals, a few different ones, and I are going to do videos. But I'm going to do videos on what we just talked about. Just about anything to do with golf and also custom fitting and custom building. My website will be virtually almost no text, only moving pictures. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been collecting information, learning how to do post-production and film, and got all the equipment I need. And I'm ready to go. I set up my schedule for next year that every Wednesday is film day. I'm going to film every Wednesday.
Knowing how you are, I know it's going to happen. So, you're serious about doing what you decide to do. So,
yeah, because what I'm going to do, Tony, is I'm not going to do, and I just watched one on the internet today, I'm not going to do those films where the camera's on, the sound is bad, and you got the same picture for 4 to 6 minutes. The information was good, but the video is I'm going to be doing it where it's entertaining but informative. There'll be one point on that video, you're definitely going to learn something, but it's going to be entertaining. If you don't laugh, then I did something wrong. Probably won't upload it if I don't know you're going to laugh.
Yeah. And I didn't ask that as an overt plug. I asked that because I think it's an exciting thing for people to be aware of that's coming from you, because you're good at what you do. It's definitely obvious, so it's fun.
Thank you for the kind words, Tony.
Yep. Well, Mike, I guess that's it. Now, you're going to be mad we went to 34 minutes. But I dragged it out, see?
That's okay. I got one last thing to say.
Go ahead.
I want to thank you for all you do to share information. Happy holidays. God bless you and your family.
Well, thank you for that, too, and to you. And if you don't get 100 rounds in, at least I know there'll be a couple more with your grandkids, and they'll be golden, right?
Well, it just gives me a goal for next year.
That's right. That's right.
I got to beat my current goal. I'm going to get it in the 90s, and my goal next year is to at least one more round as last year.
Thanks, Mike. Take care. Hang in for a second at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Tony.
Taking your game to new heights. www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Well, Mike, thanks for that information-filled interview. No specific web links today, but how about 3 task thoughts for the next year? First, remember this statement about how to effectively practice to improve. The task leads to the solution. Learning is the repeated attempt to solve a task, not the repetition of the solution for a specific task. Second, how about listening to this podcast interview again once a month for the next 3 months and take some nuggets for your practice about how you can make it more effective. And finally, watch for information most likely in my blogs, but in one of my blogs, but maybe in a short podcast with Mike in the coming months about Mike's new website and his golf improvement videos. Well, that's it for today. In 2 weeks, in 2017, I'll be speaking with Don Coyle from Country Acres Custom Golf in Mount Vernon, Illinois, a Golf Digest Top 100 custom club fitter, and we'll talk about his custom fitting learning journey and information he can provide to help you play your best golf in 2017. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you in 2 weeks.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com